With that said, I'll pass it over to Mr. Churchill again.
Thank you. Can I respond? Thank you. Can I respond to a couple of points? Mark's point on this sort of lack of knowledge society where you have to sort of emote a lot to show you're brilliant, but you don't have to know a lot, is extraordinary. I mean, I talk on quite a lot of campuses, and this is absolutely routine. And I mean, Ibn Warraq's fantastic new book, in Defending the West, explains in incredible detail just how this happened as well. The way in which, for instance, a generation of people currently at universities like SOAS in London, you can be guaranteed, you sit on a panel, you give a lecture at SOAS, and you'll get this stuff from students saying how you don't understand, or the people you're quoting don't understand it, and they'll talk about the Orientalists and things. But these Orientalists learnt the languages. They used to live in these places. They used to go to these places. People currently at SOAS barely even go to their library. And they consider themselves experts because they emote expertly. And we've got a real problem with that. There's an interesting, I think it's an interesting thing that occurs in this. We haven't really talked about the left-right divide on this thing, but multiculturalism has been seen as being a thing of the left, which it sort of largely is. But I would point to a sort of paradox about this, which is that it seems to me that the left is the political side that's worst at understanding diversity and actually being good at doing it. I remember the English diarist James Leese Milne once was interviewed about why he wasn't a communist or a socialist in the late 20s and early 30s. And he said it was everything that they built was so drab. Everything they did was so boring. Everything they wrote was so monotone. All the thoughts they fought were the same, and they wanted everyone else to live in this dreary society. It seems to me it's the right that's always been good at not at trying to make everyone the same, but actually enjoying people being different. I was not understanding the difference, not understanding that saying that something is better than something else doesn't mean you want to get rid of the thing that's worse. I was in northern Iraq recently at a party, slightly strangely, and I'll explain another time, but one of the things that I don't know if you've ever seen this, but the Kurds have an extraordinary sort of very, very boring dance, but which is nevertheless quite fun to do, where you get in a line, you go shoulder to shoulder, and you go like this, and you move around very slowly in a circle all day. And the only interesting thing is that the person on the end has a hanky and they do this. That is the one detail, but I can assure you, if you go to Kurdish parties and somebody says, would you like to dance? That's what you do. And you do it for hours. And when you turn on television, you get the dancing on the television channel. Now, I don't think that that's as good as the Royal Ballet at Covent Garden. But I don't want to stop the Kurds dancing. And I think it's quite good and it's fun and etc. I don't want to stop it. I don't want to make them learn ballet. But I think some of the left would want. They think that's what you're trying to do, that you're trying to assert something. I did a quick thing, which is that my church in London, it was in the city, recently applied for a grant for a handrail we had to have because disabled people needed a handrail to get into church, and you needed to apply to a certain fund. This is an example of the multicultural nightmare, which is that my church had to fill out a whole set of forms explaining how this handrail would be useful for everyone in the community. Now, we pointed out that it was unlikely that many Muslims and Hindus were going to be using the St. Michael's Church handrail. But we had to prove that they would. The same thing happened with the organ fund. You had to prove that anyone in the community had access and would use it. Well, I don't know how many organ-playing Hindus there are, but you had to do this if you were going to get the government grant, if you were going to get the charitable aid and all that kind of thing. What I would say finally about this is that it is incredible and remarkable to my mind the way in which the debate on this matter has changed in recent years. In 2002, I think it was, in Britain, a think tank in London, Civitas, published a booklet called Do We Need Mass Immigration? To which the answer was clearly no within the book. And the next day, the Home Secretary, David Blunkett, denounced the author as having views verging on the fascistic. 3 years later, it was effectively government policy. Multiculturalism, if you said 4 years ago that it was a disaster, you'd be hounded. Now, 2 government ministers in Great Britain have said multiculturalism is a disaster. It's widely recognized, and I think it demonstrates that when there are things that we think we shouldn't say, we should say them, because you open the ground up, you make it easier for other people, you embolden each other, and the truth can come out in this. Thank you.